Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about the Bitcoin dominance and how we can use it to better understand the phases of the market cycle. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. That sale is going to end in 2 weeks, so make sure you check that out. Links in the description below or in the pinned comment. Now, make no mistake, I've been a very big proponent of the Bitcoin dominance trending higher for a long time. And I am also a big proponent of it continuing to do so. One of the reasons why I focus so much on the Bitcoin dominance, though I think many people are somewhat confused by it, is because for every dollar you put in the cryptoverse, you have to figure out where you're going to put it. Do you put it in the altcoin market and chase theoretically outsized gains, or do you put it in Bitcoin and try to preserve just the capital that you have within the cryptoverse, right? Preserve the Satoshi valuation of your portfolio. Back in Q1 of 2022, I made a video saying that altcoins are going to be too risky for quite some time. The general idea is after the peak, their altcoins are just simply far too risky for approximately 18 months. At least on their Bitcoin pairs. Now, we're going to go through systematically a lot of different metrics in this video, all that sort of pertain back to the Bitcoin dominance because that is, again, the theme of the video. So it's going to be a longer video, but, I don't really make any apologies for it. I know some people prefer the shorter videos just because they get to the point quite quickly. Yesterday, the video that I put out, of course, was only about a minute long, and judging by the poll results, it looks like I might be out of a job soon, since most of you seem to think that my wife does a much better job. So perhaps I'll be a statistic in the unemployment numbers coming soon if this is the case. But the reality with the Bitcoin dominance is that many times it shows you the direction of the altcoin market. Okay, and I debate with myself, is it worth talking about opportunity cost? And I think it is, because it takes a full cycle, I think, to appreciate the Satoshi value of the altcoin market. Because if you don't look at it, you might think you're doing well. But if you start looking at it and you realize that the Satoshi value of your portfolio is just trending down because you're just 99% altcoins, then it simply shows that you're taking on a lot of risk and you're getting less reward than if you just simply held Bitcoin. Now, a common retort to these sorts of comments are that, well, what about such and such altcoin that has like a $10 million market cap and it went up 3x last Tuesday because, someone pumped it up? I don't really care about that part of the market, to be completely honest. So I'm not trying to say that people haven't made money in that part of the market, but that's not my cup of tea. I'm not really that interested in that. I mostly look at the top coins and the general direction of the altcoin market as a whole. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at here is the Bitcoin dominance, including stablecoins, which I think is what most people look at. Rather than excluding stablecoins, they just simply look at it including stablecoins. And, I still think it actually makes sense to look at this metric. Some people say it's not worthwhile to look at this metric, but I would argue that it still is. And I will go a bit more into that later on in the video. But I would still argue that including stablecoins is still an important metric to look at, because it actually shows that Bitcoin, the dominance can still go up for reasons that a lot of people might not even expect. But the dominance right now is coming in at just below 48%. Okay, now why this is a very important juncture in sort of the phase of the market cycle is because if we can take out this high right here, 49%, then I think it completely changes the nature of the market for months to come, right? For a while to come. And that level is 49%. So right now the dominance is at 47.78%. So what I'm looking for is Bitcoin to take out that dominance level. And the reason is because if it can, then I think it has sufficiently made it so that the altcoin market collectively has lost their critical Bitcoin support levels. The reason why that's important is because when Bitcoin pulls back, when Bitcoin USD pulls back, the altcoin market that had previously been able to look at their prior Bitcoin pivot levels as support no longer have those levels as support because they lost them when Bitcoin USD went up. then when Bitcoin USD goes down, they just simply have nowhere to hide. That is the argument, right? So the reason why I'm looking at that 49% level is because the market fundamentally changed back over here when it took out the prior high at around 51% or so. So you can see that right there is when the market fundamentally changed. Now, is there anything special about this point in mid-July, right? Is there anything special about it? It looks like the dominance was just going up, right? And a lot of people might look at that and say, well, if the dominance was going up, maybe Bitcoin USD was pumping the entire time. But that's not actually true. If you overlay Bitcoin USD on this chart, what you'll notice, and it's a very important point, is that this dominance rally was accompanied halfway by a Bitcoin USD pump, and the other half was accompanied by a dump by Bitcoin USD, followed by sideways action. Okay? So what did you notice though? What happened? During the pump phase of Bitcoin, during the pump phase of Bitcoin USD, that is where the dominance was able to take out the prior local high during the phase that Bitcoin USD was going up, okay? Was able to take out this high here. So what can we say about this? We can say that Bitcoin dominance started at 39% and it went to 51% while Bitcoin USD went up, right? We can say that. Seems like a fair statement. But then we know that the Bitcoin dominance went from 51% to where? To 62.5%. Let's just say 63%. So 63% while Bitcoin USD went down / sideways. Okay, so let's put that up on the board. So we have 39% to 51% when Bitcoin USD went up, and then 51% to 63% when Bitcoin USD went down / sideways. All right, so let's compare what's going on now. All right, now the Bitcoin dominance started. It really hit its local bottom in September, but you can see that we kind of came back down, put in a slightly higher low. And where would that higher low happen to be? And even the prior low, except for that wick, it also started at the exact same level. So let's compare the two moves. You have a 39% move to so far a 48% move. While what? While Bitcoin USD went up. Okay, that's all we have so far. So let's zoom out here and take a closer look at what we're working with. So 39% to 51 while Bitcoin USD went up. 51 to 63 while Bitcoin USD went down / sideways. So far, that was in 2018. So far during this move, we've had 39 to 48 while Bitcoin USD went up. And we're waiting to find out, right? Now, we might look at this and say, well, does it have to make it to 51%? To sort of break the back of the altcoin market. I put out a video a few days ago called, Bitcoin breaking alts. I even color coded the candle. I even made the colored the candles blue just to sort of throw back to Breaking Bad, but no one seemed to get it. But do I think we need to go to 51% to break the back of the altcoin market, to break alts off their Bitcoin support levels? No, I don't. I think a lot of them have already broken down, to be completely honest. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, but I think most of them have already broken down. Do I think we need to go a little bit higher? Ideally. But why do we not need to get to 51% to break the back of the altcoin market on their Bitcoin pairs? This level, the level of 51% is not, I don't really think it's that important. What was important was that it took out the prior high. Okay, that was what was important. It took out the prior high. Once it took out that, collectively, the altcoin market was off of its Bitcoin support level. The fact that it took out the prior high. Now, the prior high back in 2018 was around 50% or so. I mean, if we get it exact, rather than just me sort of hand waving it, the prior high was 50.68%. So once that was taken out, it marked the local top for Bitcoin USD. That's what marked it. It was when the local top for Bitcoin dominance was taken out. Okay, so where are we right now? Bitcoin dominance is at 47.78%. The highest it has gone so far during sort of, these moves or so is around 48%, right? We saw it break 48% a couple days ago. So we know it's at least hit 48%. Now, is that high enough? Is that high enough? No. Because in May of 2022, we saw the dominance go all the way up to where? 48.45%. So we haven't taken that level out yet. Furthermore, in July of 2021, we saw the dominance go to 48.92%. So my argument is that we need to see the dominance break above 48.92%. So 49%, right? Let's just see if it can get above 49%. And if it can, I think it fundamentally changes where we are within the cycle. There are a lot of people, I think, that are assuming that the altcoin market is going to take off, when Bitcoin is done with its move. But history shows us that this is not always the case. I think a lot of people assume that's the case because, just because normally ever since 2021, when this happens, the altcoin market is quick to follow suit. But all it would take would be a quick look in the history books at either 2018 or 2019 to show you that just because Bitcoin USD tops out doesn't mean the altcoin market's going to run. In fact, it didn't run in 2018 and 2019, not at least with respect to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin dominance continued higher in both cases. After the local Bitcoin USD top was in, the dominance continued higher in both 2018 and 2019. So whether you want to make the comparison to 2018, whether you want to make the comparison to 2019, the result was the same, okay? The result was basically the exact same. So again, the argument here is that we need to see the dominance go above 49%. Now, 49% might sound like a lot, but it's not. I mean, it's only about a 1% move from here. Think about this. A few weeks ago, the dominance went from like 43% to 47% in a week. In 1 week, the dominance shot up basically 4%, from 43 to 47% in a week alone. So, to go from 48% to 49% really isn't that large of a move. Okay, now where we have to be careful is, does it happen immediately, or do we get some type of consolidation first? You can see we had some consolidation over here. We had some consolidation again. It's always possible we see that further consolidation. Although my base case is probably just that it continues higher without further consolidation, just because it's hard for me to often separate what I think is ultimately going to happen with the path to ultimately get there. I think that's probably one of my deficiencies is really describing the ultimate path. I think it's ultimately heading higher. Will it consolidate for a few weeks before making that move, or will it do it immediately? I tend to err on the side of it just simply doing it almost immediately rather than seeing that type of consolidation. But of course, history does show that you could see some type of consolidation for a while before you see the extent of that move. But I think, again, it's more likely just to see a continuation of the trend here and a break above this level. So the key level to watch is 49%. If Bitcoin dominance can break that, then I think the meaning of it is that when the market turns, which it hasn't turned yet, but if we see it above 49%, I think that's where you see the altcoin market continue to get wrecked on its Bitcoin pair, okay? And I don't say that lightly. And, I understand that these videos make me an easy target for people that are, riding altcoins and riding the local pumps. But I'll show you a few charts. The reality is most of the altcoins that people sort of, bragged about in 2021 and rode, they don't really talk about it much anymore, or when they do, they just measure them off their recent local lows. But the reality is that a lot of them continue to bleed on their Bitcoin pairs. Look at Solana Bitcoin, okay? Look at this chart really quick. What do you notice? It's just stepping down, right? You can tell me that it's off the low all you want, but it still doesn't change the fact that as measured from September, the Solana Bitcoin valuation is down 84%. Now, it's down 84% against an asset that's also down, well off its prior all-time high. I mean, the prior all-time high for Bitcoin was almost $70,000, and we're just below 30K right now. So Bitcoin from its all-time high is down more than 50%, and despite that, the Solana Bitcoin valuation is down 84% against an asset that also lost more than half of its market cap. That shows you just how badly Solana has been crushed. So yes, I mean, we can always cherry pick the local lows. I know that's a frequent thing to do, but for long-term investors, looking to get into the altcoin market, for me, it's hard to really make the case when you can see that they're just simply being devalued on their Bitcoin pairs. And if you want to make the point that it's down 84%, therefore, okay, well, has it been devalued enough? You could also look at where it was at the recent local low. So even if you cherry pick that, 89% move to the downside. You think, is that enough, right? 90% move to the downside. That sounds pretty bad. We'll take a look at what ADA Bitcoin did last cycle, okay? And we'll try to figure out, is it enough? Look at what happened to Cardano last cycle. Look at this move by the ADA Bitcoin valuation from its peak. How far down did it go? This move here was already 90%, and it didn't mark the bottom on the ADA Bitcoin valuation. ADA Bitcoin dropped 95%. So Cardano, back in 2018, 2019, dropped 95% against Bitcoin. 95%. Now, if you look at Solana Bitcoin and say, well, 95% surely isn't that bad compared to 89% we're already hit. Well, let's think about it like this. 89% down, 89.65% down, would it be about 4,700 Satoshis? 95% down would get you to 2,200 Satoshis. From the current valuation, that would be another 70% drop on the Solana Bitcoin pair. Now, that doesn't mean that would mark the Solana USD bottom, but it could mark the bottom, or at least the temporary bottom, on Solana Bitcoin. And that's the reality, is that a lot of people put money in the altcoin market because they expect the altcoin market to give outsized gains compared to Bitcoin. But when you're at this phase of the cycle, the bear market / recovery year, when you're at this phase of the cycle, that's not actually true. The altcoins continue to bleed and bleed and bleed again. And so my argument for a long time has just been simply, well, if you're going to put money in the Cryptoverse, just, not financial advice, right? But it would make more sense, in my opinion, to just put it into Bitcoin, because you can always convert it to altcoins later and get more, potentially more altcoins just by converting it later than putting it in that altcoin right now. That has been the argument that we've put forth for a long time. And I'm not cherry picking just two single altcoins, right? I mean, this is Cardano, this is Solana. These were some of the major coins that had major gains in the bull market. Go take a look at Avalanche. If you take a look at Avalanche, what do you notice? It's recently lost its support level on its Bitcoin pair, right? This prior support level of around 6,500 Satoshis has fallen. And now we're putting in weekly closes down here at 6,200 Satoshis or so, 6,100 Satoshis. So it's already broken off of its support. So if Bitcoin USD were to go down, AVAX Bitcoin doesn't really have anywhere to hide because it already broke its support. The same thing is true for ADA Bitcoin. The support level that it held from May of 2022 until March of 2023 has broken off. So if Bitcoin USD were to go down, a lot of people might assume, oh, well, the altcoins will catch back up on their Bitcoin pairs. I would argue no. They broke these critical support levels that they were holding for a long time, and there's just simply nowhere for them to hide if Bitcoin USD were to go back down. I think the liquidity is leaving the altcoin market, and I think the liquidity flow from the altcoin market back to Bitcoin is also helping prop up the price of Bitcoin. Go look at BNB Bitcoin. Look how quickly this thing is falling. I mean, look at this move by BNB Bitcoin. As measured from November, it's down 44%. 44%. This is a pretty big move. If you want to compare this move, by the way, to 2019, when did Bitcoin USD peak? It peaked in late June of 2019. Late June corresponded to BNB Bitcoin getting around 44-45% devaluation from that local high, about 44-45%. So I mean, yeah, could Bitcoin push a little bit higher? It could, but you can see that the devaluation of the altcoin market, I think, is an important contributor to the Bitcoin USD rise. We've seen this many times, and this is why I've said over and over and over again, the altcoin market is just simply too risky, right? I mean, yes, you can go cherry pick a few altcoins here and there that have done well, okay? But most of them continue to bleed against Bitcoin. There are a few that have not. This is an example of one, BNB Bitcoin, right? But even if you measure it from 2019 over here, it still ended up dropping, 80% from this level. So an 80% drop from that level would put BNB Bitcoin all the way down, at less than 4,000 Satoshis. By the time, you get out another couple of years, that still represents another 66% drop on the BNB Bitcoin valuation between now and then. So, what I've said before, I've said many, many times, I said this back in 2022, the altcoin market is great in certain circumstances, but those circumstances need to correspond to periods where they're not just constantly being devalued against Bitcoin, because you're taking on more risk for less reward, right? You might say, well, what is that risk? Is it a fundamental risk? Well, no, not. It is. It is a fundamental risk, but there's the quantitative risk, right? Like just the cyclical risk. Forget the fundamental risk for a minute. We've seen these things continue to bleed. We've seen altcoins continue to put in new lows, right? One of the coins that's popped up recently is XRP. Go take a look at that one. And actually, let me pull it up on a different chart here. Look at this one, XRP USD. Yeah, it's popped up a little bit, but so what? It did the same thing in 2019 as well. And guess what? In 2019, it put in a new low. And in 2020, it put in a new low. Even though Bitcoin didn't, the altcoin market still put in new lows. ADA USD. What happened to that? Yes, it had a great rally in the first half of 2019, but it still put in a new low in 2020. All right, so the altcoin market can keep bleeding, even if Bitcoin doesn't. And if Bitcoin does bleed, then, the altcoin market is very quick to go back down, because why? Liquidity has been drained. They're no longer seen as likely to outperform Bitcoin. And then once you reach that phase of altcoins are dead, that's when they've actually bottomed. Have they bottomed when everyone is quick to jump back into the recent meme coin? Probably not, right? When do they bottom? They bottom when literally everyone becomes a Bitcoin maxi again. This is basically what happened in 2020, early 2021. A lot of people are calling for the dominance to go to 80, 90%. I think a lot of people think that I only call for the Bitcoin dominance to go higher. But if you watch my videos back in 2019, 2020, if you think back to the last video I made in 2020, it was called Ethereum. Remember the end of December. And I said then that the Bitcoin dominance was likely going to go down a lot, because we were expecting Ethereum, right? Ethereum, whatever you would call it, where the Ethereum valuation outperforms the Bitcoin valuation by a lot in the first quarter of 2021. And it did. And the Bitcoin dominance fell off a cliff. So we need to understand that the Bitcoin dominance is a very cyclical indicator. And I know a lot of people just don't believe in it because it got rejected off this level back in the summer of 22. But I would put forth the idea that, maybe we had this sort of double peak cycle that has also led to this taking perhaps more than just one attempt. Now, is there some level of rationalization going on in that statement? I think so, just being somewhat self-aware. But I also think that just because it didn't work out back in the summer of 22 doesn't mean it's not going to work out this time. I think that you can really see the altcoin market is bleeding back to Bitcoin, and I think it's likely going to continue. I would like to see the dominance break 49%, and if it can, then I think the next phase for the altcoin market is going to be quite brutal. Okay, now I want to be clear about something. If Bitcoin USD goes up, the altcoin market can still go up on their USD pairs, kicking and screaming the entire way, right? They can go up on their USD pairs if Bitcoin USD goes up. But who cares? Because if Bitcoin USD goes up, you're still likely seeing the dominance go up with it. So the point is that Bitcoin USD is likely going to continue to outperform those altcoins, even if it goes up. And if it can break 49%, then, even if it goes down, it probably doesn't even have to do that. That's just more what I'd like to see. But even if it goes down, then theoretically, you would see those altcoins continue to go down and enter into a new regime that a lot of people haven't seen for a while. And that is the altcoin market bleeding on their Bitcoin pairs, even when Bitcoin USD goes down. I think we need to see this break 49%. So if you see it break 49%, I think we're in a new regime of the market cycle. Okay, so let's take a look, by the way, at the dominance excluding stablecoins, because we talked a lot about including stablecoins, which again I think is a great way to look at this metric. Including stablecoins, I think, is important. If you exclude stablecoins, what happens? The dominance is already at 52%. One of the most common forms of criticism that I've received is that, well, the dominance put in a new low over here, right? You sort of saw a new low back in late 2022. That's if you include the stablecoin market. But the point of the dominance is mostly just to figure out what's outperforming, Bitcoin or altcoins, not stablecoins, right? I mean, the point is to see, are altcoins bleeding against Bitcoin? And most of them have been, even throughout this phase of 2022. The way to clean this up is to just exclude the stablecoin market. Again, this is on my website, not TradingView. But when you exclude the stablecoin market, the dominance is already at 52%. Now, the highest it went back in the summer of 22 was 55.31%. So ideally, it'd be good to see that level break, right? 55.31%. Now, if you apply a moving average to this, let's say a 30-day SMA, to me, it looks like this is building out a huge base to go higher. Now, I know a lot of people are calling for the Bitcoin dominance to go higher now, or at least some people are. I still think there's a lot of people that are calling for alt season to start. But you have to remember that only about 6 months ago, most people were calling for the breakdown of the dominance to new lows, right? The altcoin season calls were very prevalent, and people were calling for 20 to 30% back when the dominance was at these levels, and we had the Ethereum merge, and they were calling for the flippening and all this sort of stuff. And what's happened since then, right? No, the money's just flowed back to Bitcoin. And when you exclude the stablecoin market, what happened? It's just been one higher low after another. These higher lows have been going on since May of 2021, right? I mean, that's basically when I became bullish on the Bitcoin dominance, since the middle of 2021. I became more vocal about it, in late 2021, but I first started talking about it in May 2021, and in October we saw the dominance go up, and we thought it would. But since then, it's been putting in higher lows. One could even argue that it's been putting in higher lows since 2018. Okay, so, I've said this many times before, and I know it's not a popular thing, but listen, there's a lot of VC money that came into the space. There's a lot of just pumping altcoins like crazy. Whatever it was, all this money came in, and despite all of that, and think about this too, and despite the fact that the stablecoin market took away a lot of Bitcoin's market share, the dominance still could not put in a lower low as measured from 2018. Despite the fact that you had all the VC money, despite the fact that you had celebrities talking about altcoins on a daily basis, and despite the fact that the stablecoin market ate up a lot of what would normally be back in Bitcoin, or it would just go back to cash, so it wouldn't be counted. Because again, if you exclude stablecoins, the dominance would already be at 52%, right? And this is where it would have been last cycle, right? I mean, if last cycle at the current level, it would already be at 52%, which means it would have already broken out of this prior local high, right? But it's not. Why? Because the stablecoin market has taken up so much of the market share. Despite all of that, dominance couldn't put in a new low. Okay, so you tell me, right? You tell me if the altcoin market has gained any ground on Bitcoin. Has Ethereum really gained any ground against Bitcoin in terms of flippening? No, it hasn't. Again, it's not a popular viewpoint, but it hasn't. It has not gained any market share, compared to Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin has retained more market share this cycle than it did last cycle. And again, don't take it up with me, take it up with the data. You go take a look at the Ethereum market cap divided by the Bitcoin market cap, and what do you see? You see a massive distribution phase. And I told you guys this back in September, that this was looking like sort of like a double top on the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, right? Go look at Ether Bitcoin. And I said back in September, this was like a sort of like a double top, a little 1-2 punch, if you will, not that dissimilar from what Bitcoin USD did, right? So if you look at Bitcoin USD at its secondary peak, what happened? You had sort of like a little 1-2 punch, sort of finish it all off, right? One high, second high, and then it was down. What happened to Ether Bitcoin? It was the same thing. And you might say it's easy in hindsight. Well, we put out a video on the day of the merge and said that this is likely this is likely the top, right? This is likely just sort of a 1-2 punch in the same way that we saw with, same thing we saw with Bitcoin USD. You sort of had one distribution phase, right, followed by a lull, and then sort of a shorter secondary distribution phase. Same thing with Bitcoin USD. You had a longer distribution phase followed by a lull, and then a shorter secondary distribution phase. All right? And then what happened? Right? Ethereum Bitcoin has mostly just been putting in lower highs. Lower highs. Lower high, lower high, lower high. Every step of the way, And every time an Ether Bitcoin gets a pump, everyone gets all excited and calls for the flippening. What happened? It just keeps putting in lower highs. I used to be very bullish on the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation. I mean, you can go check the receipts back in 2019. In fact, the very first video on my channel, okay, the very first video is literally titled something like Ethereum Bitcoin is severely undervalued, right? Guess when that video was put out? September of 2019. That was right here. It's the first video on my channel. So I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I just put on my maxi hat when we're in the phase of the market cycle that we're in right now. And, the first video on my channel is talking about how Ether Bitcoin was severely undervalued in September of 2019. And I can't look at this chart in good conscience and say that this is an undervaluation level. No, it looks like a very overvalued level. Look at this. This is the Ethereum Bitcoin price ratio. But for people that want to follow the flippening stuff, they need to be looking at the market cap ratio. And for a long time, the Ethereum Bitcoin market cap was in fact putting in higher lows. Okay. And I thought it was going to break down here, okay? Admittedly, right? The receipts are there. I'm not going to hide from them. I thought it was going to break down here. It had one last move in it, I think. It still was a lower high. I mean, at the end of the day, it still didn't put in a new high. So you could still argue that it started over here. But now it's broken. And this is what I've said before. The purpose of Bitcoin USD pumps during this phase is to get all Bitcoin valuations off of their support levels. Ethereum Bitcoin is now off of its support level. So what happens when Bitcoin USD goes back down? I don't know when it's going to happen. It could be next week. It could be next month. It could be 2 months from now. I don't know. Whenever it happens, the argument is that the altcoin market has lost its support level on their Bitcoin pairs, and therefore the likely direction is down. If you follow the blueprint of Bitcoin USD, and because you can see the similarities, distribution phase number 1, distribution phase number 2, summer lull, so we'll call this A, so 1A2, Bitcoin USD, 1A2. Okay, what happened? It came back down close to this low here, maybe slightly above it, bounced a little bit, and then plummeted down. Ether Bitcoin, I think it's coming back down here. Now, here's something interesting that I think is worthwhile to point out. Look at the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, and now overlay Bitcoin USD when we saw a very similar pump, okay, on Bitcoin USD and a very similar devaluation on Ether Bitcoin. Look at this move here. Bitcoin USD rallied until mid-July of 2018. The Ethereum Bitcoin valuation during that fell from where? Where did it fall from? It fell from about 0.072, right here. Right there. Ether Bitcoin fell to 0.058 during Bitcoin USD's pump. 0.058. After Bitcoin USD came back down and went sideways, Ether Bitcoin fell all the way down to 0.02. Okay? 0.025. Right now, Ether Bitcoin is at 0.0638. If it gets to 0.058, that's still another a 9 to 10% drop on the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation. Remember, when Ether Bitcoin hit 0.058 back in 2018, it marked the local top for Bitcoin USD. Okay, that's what marked the local top. So I think it's worthwhile to consider that whenever Bitcoin rolls over, right? I mean, it rolled over in 2019, it rolled over in 2015, right? The pumps didn't last the whole year. In 2015, it was basically bull market January, February, March, and then bear market for the next 3 months, and then bull market for the next 3, and then bear market for the next 3 after that. It was an accumulation phase, right? 2019 was basically bull market for half a year, bear market for half a year. Okay, so I don't know when it's going to roll over exactly. Every cycle is not going to be the same thing, but I would suspect that the purpose of what Bitcoin USD is doing right now is to break Ether Bitcoin off of these support levels. Okay, so I mean, if it does follow, what Bitcoin USD did, then it might mean kind of coming back down to some of these prior levels, right? That maybe a slightly higher level, getting another move back up to the upside, followed by a plunge into the depths of the cryptoverse for the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation. So, you could see something like this, right? Where it comes back down, moves up a little bit, and then sort of comes back down into this area. I think that's a likely outcome, right? I really do. I don't see Ethereum Bitcoin going to new highs anytime soon. Now, if you want to say that Ethereum's made progress on the flippening just because it spent a lot of time at these levels, I would retort and say, how can you say that? I mean, in January 2019, the Ethereum Bitcoin market cap, the Ethereum market share was much more. I mean, in January 2018, it got to like 70% of Bitcoin's market cap. The highest it got this time was like 55%. So there's really not a lot of evidence to support the idea that Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin. It hasn't really made any progress this cycle. Okay, why? It put in a lower high. Call it what you want, but it was a lower high. Lower high. And this wasn't even the peak of Ether Bitcoin. We just don't have enough data on this to actually show you. But if you go back and look at Ether Bitcoin, it actually went higher in June of 2017. I mean, it actually came very close to flipping Bitcoin here. And that's where the flipping talk came into play. And to be completely honest, I used to be of the mindset that it could happen. But as time has gone on, I don't really know that it's the most likely scenario. I mean, this is just one lower high after another, right? A high, a lower high, a lower high, a lower high. That's not really progress, right? I mean, that's not. Now, where it becomes unclear, just to sort of cover all my bases, because I'm not, I would say that there is still a chance it could happen. I would say the argument is between these two ideas. And this is the two ideas that we need to consider. Is Ether Bitcoin an oscillator? Okay, because if it's an oscillator, then it basically just means it's oscillating in this range. And this was sort of the impulsive capitalization of it. And then after that impulsive capitalization, it's just sort of in a range, right? So that's one way to look at it. And the other way to look at it is, well, what if it's more so following a logarithmic regression path like Bitcoin USD is, where it's slowly gaining ground? I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer, but I'm very eager to find out. So what I'm going to be looking for, which I think is what's going to happen, but if Ethereum Bitcoin breaks down here, I'm going to be looking, does it hold in the 0.03 to 0.04 range? Because that's what I'll become, that's where I'll become more interested in Ethereum is, does it hold in the 0.03 to 0.04 range? Okay, which is, I think, sort of the minimum level that it actually might hold. Or does it come all the way back down here? Okay, so if it holds up here, then you have a case to be made that Ethereum is gaining ground against Bitcoin, because you might say, well, it's putting in lower highs, but yeah, maybe it's also putting in higher lows, right? So it's going to break out one direction eventually, whether it's up or down, we don't know. But that's what we'll have to see. But if Ethereum's Bitcoin valuation comes back down to these levels, then I think at best case you have an oscillator, not something that's gaining on Bitcoin. Okay, so I know there's a lot of people on Twitter and a lot of people on YouTube that are still talking about Ethereum flipping Bitcoin. And again, I've thought of it as a possibility in the past myself. But the reality is it's still losing. It's still losing in terms of putting in lower highs. I know people are saying it's making progress. I'm like, well, what progress? It still didn't go as high as it did last cycle. So looking at the Bitcoin dominance, how this all comes back in, you have to think about it in the context of the Ethereum dominance. Okay, so add on ETH dominance to this chart, and what do you get? You get something that looks like this, right? And you have sort of the ebb and flow of the market. You have the Ethereum dominance low, and then the Bitcoin dominance high. And then you have the Bitcoin dominance low and the Ethereum dominance high. But crypto is very cyclical, right? We get into these phases where up here, no one thinks the Bitcoin dominance can go down. And down here, no one thinks it can go up. Now we're at the phase where most people think the Ethereum dominance can't go down and they think that the Bitcoin dominance can't go up. But I'm here to say I think the most likely direction is where the Bitcoin dominance comes back up and the Ethereum dominance sort of comes back down. Okay, that's probably the most likely outcome. And I've said many times, I think the dominance of Bitcoin, as crazy as it might seem to a lot of people, I think it's going to 60%. I really think it's going to 60%. And I also think the devaluation of the stablecoin market cap is going to have some effect. Now you might say, what is Ben smoking? And whatever it is, can I have one? Right? We've talked a lot about how the stablecoin market cap has chipped away at the Bitcoin dominance. Have we not? Talked about it extensively, on and on and on, right? We've talked about how, well, if the stablecoin market cap weren't there, the dominance would be at 52%. That's what this shows us, right? 52% is where it would be. But here's an interesting way to look at this. So we have, again, this is on my website, Bitcoin dominance comparison, comparing including stablecoins and excluding stablecoins. And what do you notice? They're converging. They're converging. You don't believe me? Let's add a metric. Sorry, no, let's add a formula. We're going to take, so we can see dominance without stablecoins is M3, dominance with stablecoins is M2. Take M3 minus M2. Evaluate it on a linear scale. Hide the dominance. Hide both dominance. Look at it. They're converging. At one point, the difference between including and excluding stablecoins of the Bitcoin dominance was all the way up here at 9.61%. Almost 10% that the stablecoin market had sort of chipped away at the Bitcoin dominance. Now, it's at less than 6%. It's at 5.72%. So, what does that mean? It means the market cap of stablecoins, the market share of stablecoins, is going down relative to Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin dominance is going up, but it's going up quicker than the dominance including the dominance excluding stables is going up quicker than dominance including stables. Look at it like this. Here's another way to look at it. You can go to TradingView, you can look at this yourself. USDC market cap plus USDT market cap plus DAI market cap plus BUSD market cap. Enter. Switch it to a linear scale so you can see what's going on here over the last year. The market cap of these four stablecoins, as measured from basically April of 2022, is down 20%, 21%. So the market cap of stablecoins has been going down, right? It's been going down. Now, some of them have been going up, right? Like if you were to take a look at USDT, the market cap's going up. But is this going up because new money's coming into the space, right? Is it? Or is it going up because the USDC market cap is going down? Sorry, I'm not even sure if I clicked on the right one there. So add USDC. See, market cap of USDC is going down. So yes, market cap of USDT is going up, but when you add USDC, it still hasn't made a whole lot of progress. And when you add BUSD market cap, you can see that the stablecoin market is losing market capitalization. It's losing, market share. So one historical headwind to the Bitcoin dominance that kept it from going higher is now a tailwind because the market cap of stables is going down. They're converging back, right? So you could make the case that these are coming back in, right? So let's go take a look again. So let me go Bitcoin dominance comparison here. So you can see that this one, the one excluding stables has been going up a lot quicker than the one including stables. And part of that reason is because the stablecoin market cap is going down. Of course, you could argue that part of that is because people are converting their stablecoins to Bitcoin, but the stablecoin market cap has been going down for like most of 2022. It didn't just start going down. It's been going down for quite some time. So that's the argument. Now, let's think about this for a minute, because a lot of people think that the dominance is going to start to go back down in a sustained way. Now, again, remember, it could consolidate, right? It could consolidate like this, and it's a possibility. I would still argue the most likely direction is just immediately up, rather than any type of long consolidation. But again, long consolidation could happen. But what's something else we can look at? The altcoin season index. Take a look at this. Now, it's at 22.92, which means we're in Bitcoin season, right? That means we're in Bitcoin season right now. Now, take a 30-day SMA of it. The video I put out 2 weeks ago, I said we're likely going to take out this low. And now we have, right? We have. Now the 30-day SMA of the Bitcoin, of the altcoin season index indicator is now in Bitcoin season. And you can see that it's likely just going to keep going down because, right now the 30-day SMA of it is 23.75, but the instantaneous value is 22.92. So it's still likely going down. And if you look at, say, this is on the 90-day time frame, the 60-day time frame, it's at 10.42. The 30-day time frame, it's at 2. Okay, so it's still likely going to continue back in. Look at this period here in 2022 of the Bitcoin dominance, of Bitcoin season. Does this look like 2018 to you? No, it doesn't. What does it look like? It looks like 2019. Looks like a low and then a slightly higher low and then back up, right? A low and then a slightly higher low. It looks like 2019. What did 2018 look like, right? A move from up here down, a dead cat bounce in the altcoin market, followed by a move into the depths of the cryptoverse. Similar idea, right? From move up here, back down, a little move by the altcoin market just to get people excited again, followed by a move into the depths of the cryptoverse. And so I'm arguing that this is the phase that we're at, where we're likely going to see the Bitcoin season phase last for months. Not just because Bitcoin USD is going up, but I'm arguing that when it comes back down and or goes sideways, probably goes down and then goes sideways, I'm arguing that that phase will continue to be Bitcoin season and the altcoin market will continue to fall victim to Bitcoin. And you'll likely continue to see the altcoin market go down on its Bitcoin pair. Again, I mean, the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation alone, right? Look at the Ethereum Bitcoin market cap. It's at basically 0.4. If it just gave back half of this, think about how much the dominance would go up. So, we have to remind ourselves that the dominance of Bitcoin is an important metric because it shows you the risk you're taking on with the altcoin market. Okay, if you're going to go out there and you're going to buy, an altcoin, whether it's Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, the reason you buy it, in my opinion, of course, a lot of people disagree, and probably most people disagree, but it's my channel, so I'm gonna tell you my opinion. Of course, the reason why people should buy those coins is because they think it's going to outperform Bitcoin. But if we're in the phase where it seems like Bitcoin dominance is going up, then it likely just means that the altcoins are going to continue to be devalued on their Bitcoin pairs and continue to go down. Now, inevitably, whenever I make these videos, at some point in the next few weeks, we could see altcoins pop a little bit against Bitcoin, and then that might cause everyone to sort of question the thesis. But look, when you take a step back, it's just stair stepping down, my friends. Okay, it's just stair stepping down, and I don't really know how else to describe it, other than to say everyone gets excited on these pumps. But what happens? It's just a way to suck in more liquidity to then just go back down and put in new lows. It's the truth. That's the truth of the altcoin market. And again, the altcoin market as a whole doesn't typically bottom until well after Bitcoin has. Okay, or at least they could still put in new lows, right? So one thing I think we should look at too is the difference between Bitcoin, total 2 and total 3. Okay, I think this is an important way to look at the market too. So you go look at if you go look at Bitcoin, what do you notice from this level here? It broke out and then it back tested support, right? So breakout, back tested support, which also, of course, corresponded to the bull market support band. This is why we talk about the bull market support band all the time, right? It's an important indicator to look at. Do note that it also held it over here, and we got to move up, and it sort of had a distribution phase. I mean, I don't think that it needs to drop like this. Again, it doesn't need to drop like, 80% or 77% from whatever this level is, but you can look at these sorts of moves and see like similar ideas, right? Like, is that going to happen in April where it kind of just comes up into a sort of local high? We go back down to the back half of the year and then finally trend up in a more sustained way in 2024, 2025. This is what history shows us. Everyone gets ahead of themselves in the pre-halving year. Normally it takes until the halving year to actually see these moves, sustain themselves. So I would argue that that Bitcoin USD has shown a lot of relative strength, right? Look at Bitcoin USD. Broke out, held support, and then it's moved back up. Now, where does this differ with, say, the altcoin market, or say the market as a whole? Look at total market cap. Look at this. Despite the fact that Bitcoin USD has broken out, right, has completely broken out from its from its prior levels and has gone up a lot higher. Look at total. We're still at the August 22 highs, right? So we still haven't, I mean, I think we slightly went higher, but we still haven't really broken out. So, you tell me, right? Bitcoin USD has broken out, but the total market cap hasn't. So what this tells me is that what we've seen so far, at least, is more so a rotation of money from the altcoin market to Bitcoin, right? It doesn't necessarily mean there's been a lot of new money coming into the space. What it shows you is that this has more so been because there's been a devaluation of the altcoin market with respect to Bitcoin. There's been a liquidity flow from the altcoin market back to Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin USD is broken out, the total market cap has not. I'm not saying it can't, but it has not yet. And so this shows me that the money is more so a rotation of money from one sector to the other. Take a look at it like this, right? Take a look at say Cardano and look at where it was in August of 2022, right? Almost 60 cents. And Bitcoin USD was lower than where it is today. Now Bitcoin is Bitcoin now is much higher than where it was back in August, and ADA is not even at 40 cents. Look at Solana USD, right? Back in August of 2022, it was at $44. Now everyone's excited about a $21 Solana. Bitcoin USD is a lot higher than it was back in the summer of 22. Solana is not even half its valuation back then, not even half. It's more than 50% down. These moves by the altcoin market just suck in more liquidity. It doesn't mean, I mean, look at this trend, right? Solana USD, this is just trending down. I mean, this move here, this was just mean reversion. I mean, the trend is down. It sort of came in, it came back up. It was just a reversion to the mean, but it doesn't mean it's not still going down. So again, a lot of the altcoin market, take a look at Polkadot. Back in August of 2022, it was $9. Now it's $6. Avalanche, where do you think that was? August of 2022 was $30. Now it's $17. Bitcoin USD could barely break 25K back in the summer of 22. And now you have a majority of the altcoin market that can't even come close to breaking their summer of 2022 highs. So this is more so a rotation of the money in the altcoin market to Bitcoin than it is a representation of new money coming into the cryptoverse. Why? Because Bitcoin is seen as more of a safe haven than the altcoin market, right? I mean, it's the same thing that's happened over and over again in these prior cycles. But of course, you sprinkle in a few altcoin rallies and no one wants to believe it. You take a step back and look at the last 12 months collectively, and you can see it's just a series of lower highs on alt USD pairs, and it's a series of lower highs on alt Bitcoin pairs as well. Now, what were we talking about? Bitcoin USD broke out. Total still at the same level it was in 2022. showing it's more so just been a rotation of capital out of the altcoin market into Bitcoin. Total 2, by the way, what do you think that looks like? I mean, it's coming into resistance here. Now, I'm not saying it can't break out, okay? I mean, these trend lines are ultimately made to be broken, and if it doesn't break it here, it'll probably break it at some point within the next 12 months. But imagine if Bitcoin USD goes down before it breaks out, right? What's the point? You know, like if Bitcoin rolls over here, total 2 isn't even outside of its resistance level, right? So if total 2 can't break out before Bitcoin USD rolls over, then think about how weak that is, right? Then the next support level is back at the recent low, you know, all the way down here at 430 billion. Whereas Bitcoin, you know, could try to even come back in and hold support at the 20-week, which I'm not saying that it would, but it could try. And it has still plenty of support levels to try to hold, right? Because it already broke this trend line. So total 2, it hasn't even broken out, where Bitcoin broke out long ago. What do you think total 3 looks like? By the way, if you're not familiar, total is the entire market cap of crypto. Total 2 is everything but Bitcoin. And total 3 is everything but Bitcoin and ETH. And everything but Bitcoin and ETH also hasn't broken out yet. Okay, so imagine if Bitcoin USD rolls over before total 3 can break out, right? Where does it go? Well, I mean, the direction, right, is down. Now, you should note that over here, the altcoin market did sort of have a false breakout, right? So, you know, it was resistance, resistance, resistance. And then on the 4th try, it sort of had a couple week breakout, and then it was just a false breakout, and then it just plummeted. Okay, so it was on the 4th try. So we are in fact on the 4th try right now, right? So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if it's going to break, if it's going to give us a false breakout, I suppose now would be the time. So I think the argument is if Bitcoin USD can go up from here, let's say if it can crack 30K and go a little bit higher, then perhaps total 3 can break out of this. It still doesn't mean anything. If Bitcoin USD rolls over now, then total 3 can easily come back down to these levels. And if it can go back down to those levels quickly, just because Bitcoin USD rolls over before total 3 can break out, it shows you why the dominance of Bitcoin can go up so quickly. So this is I'm very determined for people to understand the importance of all Bitcoin valuations, and don't be distracted by short-term pumps by the altcoin market on their Bitcoin pairs, because reality is that most of them continue to bleed and bleed and bleed on their Bitcoin pairs, right? That's the reality of the situation. We've seen it time and time again. The last thing I will leave you with is the stablecoin supply ratio, because you can see that it actually hit the same level it hit in 2019. And then once that level came, it went down. And when the stablecoin ratio, so the stablecoin supply ratio oscillator came back down and it pumped back up, it was a lower high. Bitcoin USD put in a higher high, so it showed some level of divergence there, right? The stablecoin supply ratio is basically just a measure of the ability of the stablecoin market cap to move Bitcoin USD, and you can see it was a lower high on the SSRO, a higher high on Bitcoin USD, and then it sort of just bled for the next like 9-10 months. Bitcoin USD did until March of 2020, right? Same thing in 2021, right? The high, and then you had sort of Bitcoin USD come back in, and then the next move by the stablecoin supply ratio oscillator was a lower high during the sort of distribution, right? So you had a distribution level. Now, we already had this high that corresponded to a price of Bitcoin closer to like, it was back on March 17th or so, around that time frame. So this was when Bitcoin USD sort of had this initial move to 27, 28K. So we have gone higher since then. But the argument is if you see sort of a move, a sustained move in April, or even just holding these levels for a little bit, it's not necessarily that dissimilar from what we've seen. So I think that the point is if Bitcoin USD does eventually, when Bitcoin USD eventually rolls over, and I don't know how long it's going to be, or don't ask me, there's plenty of other people you could probably go ask who'll have a better idea. But whenever it does roll over, whether it's this week, whether it's 4 weeks from now, whether it's 8 weeks from now, I don't really know. Again, in 2015, it pumped until March. In 2019, it pumped until June. Okay, so probably going to peak out here between sometime in April, May, or June. I don't think it's going to last till June because 2019's pump started in December, so June was 6 months. This one started in November, so May would be 6 months. But you could also argue that that the real move by Bitcoin USD back in 2019. If you look at, say, like monthly candles, you could argue that the real move started, right here when it broke above the 20 weeks of April, May, and June. When it broke above the 20 week over here, it was January, February, March. So again, I don't really have any strong conviction on exactly how long this is going to go. I know a lot of people have different price levels. We've talked about sort of the importance of these range lows here. We've looked at Bitcoin USD divided by M2. And if you look at that, we are coming into some resistance just a bit higher than where we currently are. Again, the money supply has gone down. So that's of course hurting risk assets over the long haul if the money in circulation is just lower. But you could also, I'm not a big believer in the gap theory stuff. Like if you go look at Bitcoin futures, I know some people are adamant that all the gaps have to be filled. And, we just filled the one here at 29. There is one more up here in the mid 30s. And while it's possible we go there, the other issue is that there were a lot of people down here waiting for 9,600 to get filled before the bull market. And I said back over here, right, if you have, this is a great time to DCA. I was saying DCA this entire way, but when we pulled back to the 20 week back over here, I said it was a great, there's no reason to wait for 9,600. Heck, it went to 9,800 and there were still people saying, well, no, wait for it to go $200 lower. And then we just went into an amazing bull market. Okay. So yes, the gaps can sometimes get filled just like this one got filled, but note that this one here at 9,600 did not get filled. So there's no guarantee you have to fill this one now. Maybe you fill it now at 35. Maybe you fill it in a year and a half or something, or 2 years. I don't know. But the point is whatever happens, the ideal situation is for us to see Bitcoin dominance go above 49%. At that point, I think most, if not all, or mostly all, of the altcoin market are off of their Bitcoin support levels. So when Bitcoin USD comes back in or comes back down, the altcoin market continues to bleed. The dominance of Bitcoin goes to 60%. Everyone becomes a Bitcoin maxi. And that is when you can finally buy altcoins. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.